While growing up, it was just my brother Gary and me. My parents have 3 girls, leaving us as the only 2 boys. We were very close. Gary was younger than me. I was the firstborn, then came my 3 sisters, and finally, Gary was born. By the time Gary was in elementary school, I was already starting high school. If I could go back in time, I wish I could have spent more time with Gary when he was little. My sisters all love Gary very much and always take him with them everywhere. Even when my sister goes to watch a movie with her boyfriend, she would take Gary with her. I spent a lot of time with my friends, and even though I love Gary, I've never really spent time with him doing what boys are supposed to do. As Gary got older, we realized that he's different. Gary is gay. When he was in middle school, he hung out with a lot of girls, and he wore pink and yellow shirts. Since Gary and I share the same room, I know that he's hiding some of his clothes from my parents. The reason is that we are strong churchgoers. Our church is very strict and against gays. To make a long story short, my parents eventually found out. They would make Gary go to church even more and have church members come over to pray and beat the devil out of Gary so he can be straight again. We noticed that when Gary goes to high school, especially when he's in 11th to 12th grade, he's very rebellious. Gary is a very smart kid and has good grades, but he's rebellious and has stopped going to church altogether. At the time, he was hanging out with some kids like him. I guess one of them is his boyfriend. I remember when he graduated from high school, only my 3 sisters went to see him. My parents and I didn't go. I was very involved with our church and a part of our youth ministry, so I wanted to be a good role model and set a standard for our youth. To be honest, I'm very against Gary. After Gary's graduation, he finds that as a way to get away from the family. I remember we had a very big argument, and this is when Gary burns his bridge with all 3 of my sisters. All 3 of my sisters are already married by this time and living with their husband's family. Everyone is against Gary moving just to get away from his family and God's duty to be with his boyfriend. Gary was lost. We've lost him to the devil. After a while, Gary got accepted into a university in a different city, which is 4 hours away from home. During that time, our pastor had moved to North Carolina, and some of us members are planning to move there too. While Gary was away, my family decided to make the move to North Carolina. We did not tell Gary where we were going since he didn't want us, his family. We sold our house and moved away. It's been many years. I've been serving God and doing His work for 8 years, without tracking or getting in touch with Gary. We weren't on social media either. Honestly, we didn't really have social media back then like we do nowadays. Like I said, our church is very strict. Some of us don't even have TV in our house. That's how strict our church is. I'm sure you guys have known a church like that back in the old days. One day at church, one of the kids fell off the swing and dislocated his right shoulder. I remember taking that kid to the hospital to get him fixed. That's the day when I've thought about when Gary and I were still little, and I was having an asthma attack, and Gary stayed with me at the hospital until I could breathe better. I'm getting older, and so I've been thinking of my brother Gary ever since. Therefore, one day I've decided to travel back to California to see our old church and also ask if they've seen Gary. According to the church members, no one had seen Gary. Gary never came back to the church to look for us. By this time, I don't know whether he is dead or alive. I'm starting to ask around, and one by one I've found out that Gary is in a mental health institution for attempting suicide twice. I didn't believe that it was true at first, until I went to that mental health facility and found out that he was there. I asked them to meet my brother, and they said they have to ask Gary if it's okay, and whether or not he knows someone like me. Gary confirmed that I was his brother and was willing to meet me. Gary is not a crazy person, he's just suicidal. Therefore, they're okay to have Gary meet me one-on-one outside in the patio that was fenced in. Gary, why are you here? I've attempted to kill myself 2 times. My partner caught me twice and called the ambulance on me twice. He should have let me die. Why did you try to kill yourself? I thought you knew that gay people are prone to suicide. Gary, where is your boyfriend? He broke up with me after my second attempt. Can you tell me why you tried to kill yourself? Can you imagine coming home and your family's gone and there's a different family that lives in the house you grew up in? Can you imagine the pain of knowing that your family treated you as if you're dead to them? We just want you to find your way back to God, Gary. We've tried everything, and every time we ended up arguing. We just want you to find your way. The devil had got a hold of you, and you just need to pray to God and ask for his help. What God? What devil? They're all fake, do you know that? No, Gary, that's your problem. God is real. The devil is real. No, they're not real. They're all made up, brother. Why did God kill everyone but never got rid of the devil? Why do you think that is? Without the devil, there's no need for God. They created the devil so people like you would need God. It's a scam. You know what's real, brother? Do you know what's real? Me, I'm your brother. You can see me, you can hear me, you can touch me. I am real. I am real. If you don't believe me, touch me. I'm here. Touch me. I'm real. No, I cannot touch you, brother. You're not clean. Your soul is owned by the devil. Brother, people like you are what's wrong with this world. You and the church take advantage of people when they're at their lowest. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't have come back to find me. You should just go away and never come back. I just sat there silently with Gary after that for about a minute. I stood up and walked out of the mental health facility. My brother Gary is too far gone. My love for him doesn't matter. Some people you cannot help them. They really have to help themselves. After that, I stayed for a few days and just caught up with old friends in California. Then I flew back home to North Carolina. I was upset with Gary for a few days when I got back. However, I felt like ever since that day, Gary had planted a seed within me. God and the devil are not real. God drowned everyone in the world because they were sinful. He continues to punish sinful people, but he never gets rid of the devil. Why? I cannot answer this question. The devil was created so that us people would need God. I don't know why what Gary said was bothering me. If I don't believe in God, my whole life would crumble to the ground. I thought back to how our family got into church a long time ago. It was because my father was very sick, and our family couldn't really do anything. Food stamps were not enough, and my mother couldn't work because she had to take care of us, and my father was always so sick. It was the church that came to us and helped us, and after a while, my father got better, and we've gone to church ever since. We did find God when we're at our lowest. These thoughts are bothering me every day, and it doesn't matter how much I've tried. I couldn't get it out of my head. Day by day and week by week, I'm starting to have a lot of questions. When I was teaching our youth at church, I will ask myself if I even believe in the things I'm teaching our youth. After about 2 years, my whole world crumbles to the ground. I'm starting to lose faith and question everything I've read in the Bible. I've tried to convince myself that I just need to have more faith, but no matter what I do, I couldn't have enough faith to believe anymore. However, I still teach our youth and work in the church. It's the only thing I know how to do, and it's what's feeding me and my family. This is really bothering me, and eventually, on the 4th year after I've seen Gary, I've stopped believing in God, Jesus, and the Bible. I still teach it, but deep down, I'm rotting. I know that I will have to take a trip back to California to see Gary. After 4 years from the last time I've seen Gary, I take a trip back to California. I went back to the mental health facility, but they don't even know who Gary is. But when they checked on their system, they told me that Gary was out of the facility 3 years ago. He's doing good, so the doctor agreed to discharge him. I didn't know where Gary was, so I started asking around. That's when I found out from Jacob in our old church. He's a friend of mine back then, and he told me that Gary is in this other church and he's dating the pastor's son. I cannot believe it, that this church would accept gay. I asked Jacob, and Jacob said that here in California, the church is more open to accepting gay people. The churches have to adapt to the time. On Sunday, I went to their church, and I sat on the bench on the back. I can see Gary and his boyfriend sitting on the front. I sat through that whole section and prayed with them. I cannot believe my eyes. Gary is very into church now, it seems. I've decided that I'll get up early and go back home without him noticing me. As long as he's doing good, then I don't need to bring any more drama into his life anymore. I should just leave him alone. Before the church ended at 3 p.m., I got up and walked out into the parking lot to my rental car. Once I got there, I reached out to open the car door, and I heard, "Brother, wait." I turned to look, and I saw Gary coming towards me. Once he got in front of me, he said, "Brother, thank you. It was because of you that I found my way back. I found God. I did see you in the church at the beginning, but I just didn't say anything until I saw you leave." "You found God?" "Yes, brother. After you came to see me the last time, I was at my lowest. And that night, I prayed to God, and I found my way back to Him. So thank you." Gary's boyfriend then came, and Gary introduced me to him. He's a very nice guy, too. I hugged Gary and asked if he had any free times the next few days, because I'm staying for the whole week. He said he do have some free times. The next few days, I spent time with my brother and just talked to him about God. I did not want him to know that I've lost my faith, but I'm so glad that he found his faith and his way back to God. After my visit, I flew back home. Gary has visited us a few times in North Carolina now. Time has changed everyone's heart and my family, and my parents are accepting Gary back to be a part of our family, and that's all that really matters. He truly is my brother. I can see him, hear him, and touch him. Nothing is more important to me than my family. Thank you for listening.